Hi, my name is Samantha. Welcome to this session on the way to love. So, the way to love is always the opposite of what I call your knee-jerk reaction or your automatic. So, the way to love is the opposite. AO, always opposite. And the way, it's both meant as a direction and it's a path. And it's about just seeing what's right in front of you. So the path and the step that you're taking, and the path will be revealed once you kind of put your foot down. Boof. So it's dark. What I see is a dark cage, and you start walking, and it becomes more and more light inside of this cage. So if you can see exactly where you're going, you're probably going in the wrong direction, because what you see is in the future. So I want to quickly shift into practical example. So it's going to be like, imagine this and then practical. So when you're explaining, when you're in an argument, it is actually your solution that becomes the problem. You might be explaining why you feel the way you feel, or explaining the solution as you see it to your husband. So you see very clearly where you're going, and that's actually the wrong way. So it's better that you don't know where you're going, but you take one step at a time. What happens when the solution actually becomes the problem is, for example, when you're stuck, not fighting, but maybe just an argument, and you're thinking to yourself, why can't he just see this? If only he knew and understood this, then that. So think back to a time, probably been many times, where you had that feeling, if only he understood, and you keep explaining it because you want to get to that solution. And that so-called solution in your head that you want to get to becomes the whole problem. So the solution is the problem. That's why the way to love is the opposite of what you're doing. So when you start acting more like your husband or your partner, and he or she hopefully acts more like you, we don't have to wait for that to happen, but just know that for us, that is the solution. And it's probably also the solution for him and her or her. So if your husband was like my husband, he would not act, he would wait, and he would let things resolve themselves. And my knee-jerk reaction is action, fixing things. So that got me in way more trouble than it got me to what I wanted. So the way to love is the opposite of the way that you usually do things. So be open to the fact that the way is different. The way is the opposite. Forget everything you know, which is always good when you're in coaching or you sign up for something or you're taking in new knowledge and wisdom. Don't be the expert. Pretend like you know nothing. Forget everything you know. What you know will stay there. Welcome, Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. I'm just ranting on about the way to love. Where was I? But you can come up with questions if you have some. So I was going to say, when I say something is bad behavior, it's not a moral judgment. It's only bad in the sense of practical, where you want to go. So there is good behavior and then there's bad behavior. And again, it's not a moral judgment. It's in terms of you getting to love and connection. So there's behavior that gets you to love and connection, which I call good behavior. And then there's bad behavior because it doesn't get you what you want. So it's a clear distinction of the two. And I just wanted to say that. So I'll just quickly recap for you. This is being recorded. It's not going to be sent out to everybody. It's going to be part of the program called The Way to Love. So if you want to change your name, you can right click on it in Zoom and change it. Not sure anyone will see it, but I just want to let you know. So there's good behavior and there's bad behavior, and it's about the direction. You're either walking towards love or you're walking away from love. So you're either making love or you're making war or going away from love at least. So good behavior is patience. Probably the opposite of what you're used to. So mine would be action, action, action. And hey, Susie's in the house. Nice. That's when I get what I want. So I'm just going to welcome people and to the coaching. Hey, I just started talking because there was nobody in here and I was talking about the way to love. If you have questions, anything on your heart, I'll gladly talk into that. So write it in the chat, and you can always unmute yourself, but you can start by using the chat if you want. Okay. So there's good behavior and then there's bad behavior. When you start just distinguishing between the two and you stop explaining your own bad behavior, then you're walking towards love. So every time you're explaining something, you're actually lying to yourself. I don't know if you read that email that I sent out. You don't realize it. So just to recap what I was saying, in an argument when we're stuck, we see the solution as if only he knew this and that, if only he could understand this, then everything would be great. So we keep explaining just to get to that solution, which is in fact the real problem, is what we call the solution. It's somewhere that we want to go and we see it so clearly. So in the beginning, in the introduction, I was talking about being in a cave that was all black, and you put one foot in front of the other and it starts to light up, and you don't need to see the whole way to love, just the next step. That means you're going in the right direction. So when it's dark and unknown, it's the right direction. It's the way to love. If you see where you want to go, like you can have a vision and you can have a dream. I know I want the world's best relationship, but if you're stuck thinking this is the solution, if I can make him see this, if I can make him understand this, then you're walking away from love. And now you're welcome. This is a Q&A session. If any questions you have, it doesn't have to be in relation to what I'm talking about right now. Of course, in relation to stop fighting with your husband, you're welcome to write in the chat or unmute. So whether you're explaining to him that solution that you see, which could be something practical, right? It could also be you're explaining why you're behaving the way you are. So you're kind of like defending why you got upset. And you see it so clearly, and you would love it if he explained to you what goes on inside of him. So it's always opposite. So be more like your partner. Mine was not close, but he didn't talk much. He didn't act much. He didn't like jump out and explain everything on his mind. He was more like, let things resolve themselves. So when you start doing that, that's how you're going to get to love very, very quickly. People are joining. It's so great to see you guys here. Remember, it's Q&A session and you're allowed to answer. How many people saw the masterclass? This is for you guys. I'm here to serve you. So if you want questions, please do so. We can do this however you want. I'm going to talk, so because that's what I'm here for, but I would love it if you ask questions and I'll get into them. So explaining the solution as we see it is the wrong path. It's the wrong way. So the way to love is about a path and it's about direction. So we're walking towards love or away from it. I want you to just think about this concept. Whenever you're explaining, you're lying to yourself. It doesn't seem like it. It's not a lie in the sense that we know the word, but it's a lie because we believe in it. So anyone, you're welcome to unmute. I'm going to mute you, but you're welcome to unmute yourself and just speak up if you have questions. Just interrupt me. So that's one type of explanation. And in an argument, you're trying, it's the argument, it's the solution as you see it that prolongs the argument. So we're arguing because first we want him to understand something, but first of all, whatever we're arguing, it's a case that we've already decided. And if we really look into it, we're either arguing that what we're doing is okay, we're either arguing and defending our own wrong or bad behavior, because we're making excuses and we don't want to be judged upon it, or we are arguing a case that he should do something different. And I would love to get input from you in your last argument. What was it about? Remember, just write in the chat or raise your hand or just unmute and interrupt me. You're very welcome. So we think it's really rational and practical because we're in our head, and we it's the argument that prolongs the argument. So forget about whatever it is you want him to understand. Just look at that toddler pudding box where you have a square and you have a round space. It's not going to fit in. It doesn't matter. So when you get in the right heart space, you can say the words and he's going to receive them. But right now in the argument, you can't. So you're in your head trying to connect to his head, and it doesn't work that way. It comes from the heart to the heart and then to his head in a sense of understanding is a feeling. So whatever you're trying to get him to understand, don't do it. It's the wrong way. That's what I meant with when you see a clear picture of where you're going, you're most likely going in the wrong direction. So the way to love is through the unknown and behaving more like our husbands, doing the opposite of our knee-jerk reaction. So that means stop explaining, either explaining the solution as you see what he should or shouldn't do. It's basically, we would love it probably if he told us what we should or shouldn't do. I don't know, but I would with mine. So we want to fix the problem and we want to get to a great relationship. That's why we're here, right? And so we point to that thing and that thing and that thing, because then we get here to the great relationship. But it's in the pointing to this thing and this thing and this thing that he should do different, that he should or shouldn't do, because that's the solution we see, that we think will get us to love and connection to the relationship we want. It's not those things. Forget about the solution that you see inside of your head. When you forget about that and you stop trying to fix things and just kind of accept and surrender into the situation, you're not trying to get anywhere. And then you'll meet him and then you'll be together. And then if you select one important thing, you can put that message into his head. So I don't know about you, but do you sometimes feel that your husband doesn't hear what you're saying? Does anyone have that experience that he's not listening? Are you listening? This feels like marriage to me.
Absolutely.
Hi, thanks for joining in. So you feel like you're not listening. Thank you so much. Can I call you by your name? This will be recorded.
Yes.
Okay, Rebecca. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on it?
I feel like we are on different levels, and he looks at me like a deer in the headlights, like he's not getting it. It's like
deer in the headlight is an interesting term.
That's exactly how I feel. It happens when I want to talk deeply, when it's just everyday things, no confrontation, no depth, then it's fine. The minute it tends to go a little deep, I get a blank stare.
So what happens to that deer in the headlight? What's it like for the deer?
Can't
like
see.
In a real deer, like in the street.
Yeah. He can't see. He's blinded.
And what else?
They're afraid.
And
they want to run.
Do you know why your husband is afraid and wants to run?
I feel that's what he does with everything in his life. He runs and doesn't want to take on life, wants to disappear. Okay.
So I asked you, of course, if you know how, or if you understand why he's afraid. So that was kind of a leading question. So what happened is you answered my question. So I get that you answered that, but usually I'd say, stay on your own turf and don't or conclude anything about him. What I wanted you to understand, and I was trying to do positive manipulation, it didn't work. What I wanted to say was he is scared. So the reason he's scared are multiple levels. So the first thing I wanted to say was that the reason our husband doesn't listen to us is because we've put so many words inside of his head and he's afraid to get any words out. So imagine a jar and you put a coin in, right? And imagine that jar being your husband's head. So it's filled up because we speak more words than he speaks, and he doesn't get many out because he's afraid to. So here's the reason he's afraid to get words out of his mouth, is because men have been told their entire life by women, you're doing something wrong again. So when my children, my boys run over and hit me to say hello. Hey, I go, ow, stop hitting me. You're wrong. Don't do that. So it's called aggression nurturing. And that's how they show compassion. We use words. Sometimes we swap roles and the man is the woman is the man, but just in general terms. Women use words to create relationship. We're better at it. We have more blood flow in the brain, both sides of the brain, and men don't. They speak for different reasons. They speak because it's about winning, or they speak to be right or wrong. They don't speak to connect. They get afraid because he knows no matter what he says, it's going to be used against him. So he is caught in the headlight like that deer. And yes, he's blind, but we're blind too. But he's most of all afraid. So when you start a sentence with I feel, he just shuts down to preserve himself. The only way forward towards love is for you to forget everything you think you know about your husband, unless you're really open and curious about, I wonder how he feels. Forget everything you think, no assessment and no judgment, and just be curious without thinking you know the answer.
Like that.
Yes, and there was something else that slipped my mind. So he is afraid because he has been told by teachers. Also, his brain is different. So when boys are in school, they're told by women that you're doing something wrong. So his mother has told him that, his previous girlfriends and his teachers, everybody, every woman has ever loved probably has told him you're doing something wrong. Again, when he's being in his natural state of mind. Imagine my boys running over the woman. They're just being them. It's everybody should just try to be our natural self. So, and when boys and men are their natural selves, the way we should all be, they're told that they're wrong. You're doing something wrong, but they're just being them. That's how they say hi, like, I'm gonna go out, don't do that. So it sits deep inside of him that the woman he loves is telling him he's doing something wrong again. So he shuts down to preserve himself and to survive. And it's our job for him to feel safe, to get words out of his mouth. If we want new words inside of his head, we have to allow him to get some out of his mouth. Because he's probably experienced that whenever he said something, you got mad at him for it. And then you get mad at him for not saying anything. And I get that. I so wanted to know what was going on inside my husband's heart and his head. And I'm like, give it to me. What are you thinking? Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
What did you like about what I just said?
It felt a little relaxing to just stop, and just observe. And then the other side of me said, yeah, but what if he is doing something wrong? That's going to affect me or infect me.
Mhm.
It's like I don't want to reap the consequences of his bad choice.
So what I always do is I look at if I'm being led by love and trust versus fear and insecurity. So that's a fear story, right? That's going to get you what you don't want. So you're going to experience him doing exactly what you don't want. You're going to experience being infected because you're judging him as doing something bad, when in fact, he's a lighting star. He's a guiding star that God has put in front of you, or whomever you believe in, universe. There's a reason your husband is in front of you. So I was so triggered by my husband being slow. I'm like, and I wasn't the only one. Everybody was triggered by his slowness. And then when I flipped all these things around that annoyed me by him, like not taking action, then I saw, oh, he's patient and he's grounded and he's thorough and he's present. He's all the things. These were all the qualities that I lacked that had nothing to do with him. So anyone I talked to gave me feedback. It was ungrounded, disorganized, all the things. Like patience is the number one thing that if I learn that, I'll get everything I want in life. And that had nothing to do with my husband. So why was he in front of me? So there's a reason your husband is in front of you, to teach you something. And it's a valuable gift. It's just wrapped in like shit sometimes. It feels like shit. But there is gold in your triggers. And there's I don't know, I want to say a rainbow in the ship, but it sounds weird. But there is a reason he's in front of you. And there's so much gold inside everything that feels awful, because learning feels awful. But if it didn't feel awful, Like if you just go through life feeling successful, you're not learning anything. You can get to be a winner and be all successful, but that doesn't grow you. Doesn't get you anything new. So we learn from everything that feels awful, but we don't get the actual reward of the learning because it feels so awful. We just stop. So I always say it's like looking at our own ass, and we don't like to do that. It looks awful, right? Imagine you you turn your head around, right? And you're looking down, oh my God, you look away. But if you dare to stare at your own ass for just 1 second, I promise you, you can get anything you want in your love relationship. Your relationship can shift at the speed of lightning. It really can.
Wow. Wow. I love that.
But it's true. So what happens when, like, imagine you're trying to turn your head around to look for it. You can't turn it 180 degrees around. That's what I felt. When I finally did, I literally like, it was excruciating to see how I acted. And your husband should do the same, but that's on his turf, right? So if I was talking to your husband, I'd tell him the same. Like, don't think about what your husband should or shouldn't do. That is a waste of time. Think about, what can I do right now in this very second or moment? What can I do right now without blaming, complaining, or hosting a huge pity party? That's the right question to ask. And if you want to ask a question about him, ask, gee, I wonder how he feels. And then you get to be really embarrassed and go like, oh my, oh, like that feeling when you go, oh, that's how he feels. Oh, but it's great. Just allow yourself to feel that, because then you get to connection. You'll be so relieved. Just
Thank you.
stare at it for 2
Love that.
seconds. Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for daring to speak up. So you all ladies and men, and you're very, very courageous to dive in here and take this weird coaching from me and just be on this class. So you're really doing something, and you can get so much out of it. So you have the chance right now to really shift and stop fighting. I can talk on and on, but I'd rather hear from you guys. Anyone else feel like your husbands are not listening, or your partner, your wife is not listening? Did anything resonate of what I said? Yes? Sharon, go for it. Oh, you just
Nope,
want
I just noticed it was muted, and I was asking if you could hear me, and then I noticed it was muted, and I will take the hand down. I am not married currently. I am a widow. I have a friend who I think he's interested in me. I don't know. We have been friends for like almost 3 years now, and but he is very, oh wow, for somebody that's a very, very masculine guy, and he was in the army and stuff like that, he's definitely got a very feminine side. He's a nonstop talker.
Mhm.
So there have been times with him where I've teased him and I said, okay, you're talking in Chinese and I'm listening in Greek. I don't understand. But if I ask him to clarify, he'll clarify. If I wait long enough, usually he will. Or if I ask enough, like, did you mean such and such? And then, oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. So like, he's very open, and he's like one of the best friends, male or female, that I've ever had in regard to like communication and stuff. Unfortunately with him, he gives a lot of mixed messages, and just this past weekend that we were talking about a local situation where there seems to be an adultery thing that's going on with these YouTube.
Sharon, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, go ahead.
That's okay. I just want to make sure that everybody gets what they want out of this. And I do want to answer any questions. Did you see the masterclass? Understanding Number One Secret?
I saw one of your previous ones. I'm not sure if that was the same one.
I wanted you to ask questions into that, or to anything, like if you have questions that could, I'd love to answer them and help you and everybody else who's listening about how to the way to love. So did you have a question for me? You could start with my question.
So do you have a suggestion on I don't know if I'm on the right track with just letting somebody talk and maybe asking, trying not to be intimidating, asking clarifying
I'd say that
questions.
to yourself, but first of all, it's about two things. It's what do you want? So what do you, Sharon, want? And then it's about figuring out if you're led by love or trust or fear and insecurity. Like with Rebecca, I don't want to be intimidated with his stuff. That's a fear talking, right? So just notice if you're led by fear and insecurity versus love and trust. So if you're afraid he's not going to like you for you being you, that might be fear. But again, if you want to get to love and connection, the question to ask is, gee, I wonder how he feels. Without, like, if you notice Rebecca, she had a lot of assumptions about him, right? So with no, like, be completely curious without thinking you know the answer, and then ask him. You could ask him, I wonder why you talk so much, or some kind of question where you don't already know. But you're dating, so this is more when you're already in a relationship and you're stuck fighting. And it's in relationship or in relations to the number one secret to communication about self-dialogue, about leading with love. So if you have any question relating to that topic.
Well, that's very helpful what you said, but no, I think that as the friendship has gone on, I have gotten to trust. I know that he apologizes very quickly if I misunderstand or whatever. So yeah, there's not really an issue.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is, congratulations on finding that. That sounds so great. So congratulations on that. Okay, so we have two men on the line. That's great. We love the male perspective. So could you answer me in the chat, everybody? Are you in a relationship and wanting to stop fighting in your relationship? If you are, and you have specific things you need help with, you're welcome to raise your hand. I'll keep talking. And if I speak into something that sounds familiar, please let me know. And I can also just take some questions now if you have specific questions. Okay, so we were just talking about if it feels like your husband or your partner doesn't listen sometimes. And I explained how your husband gets scared when you say I feel statements. And I love, Rebecca, what you shared, that is like a deer in the headlights. And I'd love to talk more into that or anything else that will help you. So the way to love. Yes, please review the masterclass. Let me know how I can improve it, make it better. Where is it too long? Yes. Please, let's do that. Do you want to do it now, Rebecca? Or you want to view it again, review it? Ah, okay, I thought you want to give me feedback. Yes, I'll share a link to it. It's been sent out. I'll send it out again on email. So the way to love is the opposite. When you start doing the opposite of your automatic, that's how you create something new. So it's actually about creation as well of the path and the way to love, because we create the same experience again and again. That's why I said, notice if you're led by fear and insecurity versus love and trust, because when we're led by fear, this is what happens. When we're led by fear, we think that the present is going to be like the past and the future is going to be like the present. So we have no new experiences. And the newest brain research has just shown that memory is not what we think. It's not stored one place in the brain. I used to say it was in the hippocampus where emotions are. But memories are 80% fantasy. It is something we make up in the present moment to deal with the situation now. And so memories are not what we really think they are. So notice when you're being led by love and trust versus fear and insecurity. That is the number one, like, guiding principle, because when you want to create a new experience with your husband and your partner, you know, I was stuck getting the same result over and over again because I got what I focused on, which was what I didn't want. And that's fear. So notice when it's fear that's leading you. Notice what your conversation is telling you. Oh, I don't want this. I don't want that. I hope he doesn't do this. I hope he doesn't do that. You will get the same response from your husband or your partner. But when you start changing the dialogue inside of your head to something based on love and trust, so anything in the future and that's not in the present moment, you know, you're still married, you didn't split up, you might be afraid that you have to get a divorce if this, that, and the other, that's out in the future. So when you loved him, when you got married to him, you loved him forever, or her. And we have men on the line too. I love to get the male perspective. Males, if you want to speak, please raise your hand. Also women. And so raise your hand if you want to say something. I love to get a different perspective. So when you married and said yes to your wife or your husband, you thought about the future in love, right? So your husband is the same guy you married. I promise you that. The only thing that's different, or the only thing that's variable, is our insecurity. So something today we can be super fearful about and be all upset that we weren't yesterday. Nothing has changed in the outside world. Your husband is still the same. Reality is still the same. Factual things are still the same. Nothing has changed, but our insecurity goes up. So time since last connection, could be love making, it could be sex, it could be any kind of connection and intimacy where you really feel connected to each other. Then time passes on and your insecurity goes up. That's all that happens. Your filter is different. You need to find proof that he loves you, because the proof you got when you made love and had connection, some time passed. So if you were just making love all the time, you wouldn't be insecure and you wouldn't need proof that he loves you and that you could live together. The need for proof comes because it's been some time since the last connection. And the reason I always ask, what do you want, is because that puts our head and our heart right, because we want love and connection. We don't want him to take out the trash, pick up his socks. That's just because it's been some time since connection and we start getting insecure on a subconscious level that we can really be together. And then we need proof that he loves us, and we see proof. The socks become a real big problem, with the beer bottles on the table become so annoying all of a sudden. But the reason they are annoying is something inside of us. So they will still get fixed. So we will get everything we want. It's just a matter of it's a matter of which order in things. So we will get the kids to school on time. We will get the beer bottles, and we will live like we want to live, but we get to make love first, because what we really want, first of all, before having a clean house and all those practical things, is you want love and connection. So can you agree to that? Is that what you want? Or what do you want? I'd love to hear from you. What was your last argument about? What is your biggest problem you're struggling with? Frank and Sam, if you're men, I would love, sometimes you're a man, sometimes with a woman. Are you afraid to talk to your wives? Is it your wives that talk more than you? Do you feel you get told you're doing something wrong when you say what's on your mind? I'm dying to know. Okay, so I was explaining to Rebecca that we talk so many words that our husband's head is just filled up with words, and we have to let him speak to get some words out, because he literally cannot hear a thing that we're saying because it's filled up. So that's just a vivid picture, right? So it can also be because he's afraid. He remembers, just like we do. He remembers the last time he said something and we snapped at him. And I think your husbands are way more sensitive than we really think about. And he doesn't have the same choice as us. So we can always go over and hug our husband, always have that choice, or blowjob even, or sex, whatever. That's easy for us to do. No man will never say no to that, more or less. I do have a lot of clients where it's reversed, but just think of this, that we have the choice to make love at any time and connect. Men are afraid of doing that. So my husband went over to me and I shut him down once, and he's just been afraid ever since. We're not together anymore, but that's what happened, right? So I could always go over and hug him. You always have a choice. But it starts with honesty, being honest about the conversations you're having inside of your head, and then taking responsibility and asking better questions. Yes, I want connection. Cool. I feel like I'm ranting on now. I'd love to serve you. Please come with the concrete questions. Do you feel the same as someone wrote to me? So should we just do everything? Should we just do everything good and he gets to do whatever he wants or something like that? What has been on your mind? What does it sound like when I say the way to love is the opposite? Rebecca, let's talk about your example. You want connection. What would you do to create connection with next time you're trying to create connection with your husband? What dialogue would you have inside your own head? Maybe
To
outside.
zip it and
Yeah.
listen and ask myself, what is he feeling or thinking right now?
Yeah. And the answer might be, oh my God, I'm making him feel so small, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you didn't do anything wrong. You actually did something right. So whenever you feel wrong, you're actually on the right path. Because before I told you how he might feel, you thought it was all his fault, right? And that's okay. But when we get closer to love and get closer to connection, we feel wrong. We feel, oh, did I do that? But that's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. It just feels wrong. You're on the right path. Stay there. Stay there.
And I think my old pattern was that was lazy and not being proactive and not caring. And so it's going to be hard for me to stop, because for decades and decades and decades,
Mhm.
I thought that's what good people did, was they were proactive and tried to fix things and make things better, and don't be lazy, and get the job done and make it work. And so this is like taking a step in the opposite direction.
Exactly. So yeah, that story, I was like that too. Like my husband said, it is what it is. I'm like, what? I hate it.
Yeah.
Ah, I hated that.
And I would be, it is what we make it. It's not,
Yeah,
it is what
exactly.
it is. It is what we make it. What do you want to make it?
So you're going to get so much out of listening to this training. You're going to see immediate results. It's going to be embarrassing sometimes. It is to look at our own ass, but it's going to be so rewarding. You're going to get your loving husband back anytime you want. And you're going to be a loving wife. And it's
That's
going to feel
beautiful.
great because that's who we are. We're not created like these maniacs that sometimes act like, and neither is he. So
I'm
wait.
thinking, I had a friend who I wanted to listen to this, and I haven't seen her name on here, but she's dealing with a situation where it has a husband who's a hoarder, and they're going to be evicted unless because the landlord came and wanted things cleaned up, and she's like, what should I do? And I'm like, I don't know. That she wants to just take it in her own hands and call a, dump truck and
Yeah.
throw everything in the dump truck. And how would you respond to that?
Oh my God, that's a difficult one. Lead yourself with love and trust, and then see where you end up. So
Okay.
the insecurity is we're going to get evicted. So, and that's
Yes.
a possibility, and I get that, but it's still about leading yourself, not your husband. But there are choices we can make that are responsible. I did throw some of my husband's stuff away, and I did sell his motorbike, and I did certain things. He had 3 of them. Again, be led by love and trust. Change the conversation inside of your head. And trust that there's a reason, there's something good in every situation. And just notice there's fear, because you can get evicted. That's a lot. So I don't know what the rules are, but in Denmark, you do have to have not paid the rent for quite some time for it's really hard to evict people. So you can be practical sometimes and just play it out. Like, what's worst case scenario if we get evicted? Is there somewhere else we can move? Is it really a chance that we can get evicted? Because sometimes we make a big problem, we build it up in our mind, right? So first thing is trust and faith. And then the practicalities to play it all out. Will we die? No, it'll be in a very bad situation, but we won't die. We won't die in the streets. We won't starve to death, and just play
Yeah.
the worst case scenario out and take the fear away. But in
Yeah.
general, that's the only way you should be practical, because what happens is when we try to, it's an emotional problem. So the problem is really not even the hoarding, even though it seems that way. It's when last time they made love and they were connected, everything was great, right?
Hmm.
All these practical things come up, but we can't fix an emotional problem with a practical solution. We're going to keep running around doing that. So get connection and love first, make love first, and then all else will easily resolve itself. But if you tell him or the universe, it's more important for me to clean the apartment, and hoarding is a good example, because that's what you want to do first. But make love first, make him feel love first, give what's love to him first.
Okay.
Then you'll get it back, you'll feel better. And that's just the right order of things. Make love first, but if you want love, give love, but give what's love to him. And I get that it's super, super hard and counterintuitive. So
I'd like to send her this.
yeah, I'll figure out what to do about it, because I want to serve and help everybody. And I'm so glad you're all on here today. And it just, but otherwise, send her my calendar link and I'll hop on a call with her, whatever, we'll figure something out.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
I was married to my ex-husband was, I think, in the same category. And it is so easy to point to the mess and the hoarding, or the, whatever you call it, ADHD or whatever, and point to that.
Yes.
But we don't get to love and connection when we point outside.
Okay.
It becomes a lie that we choose instead of love. It's not true. It seems true, but we're lying to ourselves because we don't understand our emotions. So the practical things, if we choose to point to them, we're not being really honest about ourselves. And honesty is a journey. And I used to point to the beer bottles on the table. They were right there staring at me. And someone said, it's not about the beer bottles, but it is about the beer bottles. No, when we choose to make the story so true, it becomes true. We get further away from love. So there is a reality and a truth inside of our heart, and where it's very beautiful and pure and there's no mess. Get into that space and just trust that there's a reason your husband is in front of you. Whether or not we're going to be together forever, we don't know. That doesn't matter. But right here, right now, we are together with that human being. And the higher we hold him, the higher we hold ourselves. And it's all about a story. So right here, right now, what can I do without telling myself I married a loser, without telling myself I can never live together? All these stories are logical stories that you can tell yourself and point to, but they don't get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
So the mess, I get it. But if you make it about the mess or whatever situation it is, you're just never going to get to where you want to go.
I think another thing she always makes it about is because she is in that fear state so much, she never feels safe. She's very sickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if, like you said, if she gets more into love and connection, she might feel more safe and she might be healthier.
Yeah. So what happens is that we get, again, heaven's first law is order. So I have clients that said, when I feel more confident, then I'll do a Facebook Live. No, when you do a Facebook Live, then you'll feel more confident. It's always the other way around. So always opposite. So you don't wait. You feeling safe is something you create by making love and adjusting your thoughts and your actions. Now, you don't, if you wait for your husband to do something, you're going to wait forever. And that's not leading. Then you're going to wait to be follower. Sometimes it's good to be a good follower, but you want to lead because you're leading yourself and
you're love.
Yeah. And you're inspiring him by how you behave yourself. So no matter how he turns out to behave and respond, the good behavior, the right behavior for you, you know what that is. So lashing out, snapping, having a conversation that you married a loser, all these things is just bad behavior. You don't need to defend it. You just recognize, okay, I'm doing bad behavior. It's a habit. It's fine. And then do some of the good behavior. So it's about implementing new behavior and new habits. So all the good behaviors are acceptance, surrender, patience, gratitude, trust. Trust is love, you know, honesty and vulnerability. So on my 12 steps to lead with love, there are 10 to-dos and only 2 don't do's. And they're blaming and hosting a pity party. Those are the only 2 things to not do. If you practice not blaming or not complaining for just 24 hours, you get immediate results.
Mhm.
And the 24 hours is really only 4 hours because you're at work, right? So there are so many things you can do to see the magic of this and get love and connection right now and see how anything can, the longest journey of your life takes 1 second. If you just practice any of the good behaviors, any of the 10 steps to do, or practice the 2 ones not to do. So I don't know if you had many pity parties, maybe it's blaming and complaining. They're super powerful to stop doing. It could also be called stop explaining. Because what happens is that we explain blame to our husband. No matter how we wrap it up, we're telling him he's doing something wrong, right? So Rebecca, you wanted to talk to him, but what are you really saying to him? You're saying you're doing something wrong, one way or the other, and that's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just not going to get you where you want to go. That's the only reason it's bad. It's not a moral judgment. It's just practical. So just switch, just notice, okay, right now I'm blaming or I'm lashing out. It's a habit. I do it to the people I love the most. I get really annoyed with my oldest son and now my ex-husband, even though I still love them, they just annoy me. That doesn't mean I don't love them, but I get to course correct myself and my behavior and just admit it to myself and don't explain it or don't excuse it. So just make a list and see, okay, why is he like a deer in the headlight? Maybe it's my tone of voice. Oh, that your husband's reaction is just a response. It's just feedback. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It's just not working. So do something new. Style flex. Like if you have an enrollment conversation and you're selling something to somebody and they're saying no, it's like, okay, I should say something else. Let me try this. It's not working. So it's okay that it's not working. Don't judge yourself or blame yourself or feel guilty, because it's actually a good sign, because most of the time we don't know we're doing anything wrong and it's all his fault. And then it starts shifting and it feels awful, but it's good. Because if it didn't feel awful, it just meant you were stuck in the story that he did everything wrong. And then you're never, ever going to get a new response. So as soon as it feels embarrassing because you get to see what an ass we sometimes are, or see your own ass, like I would always blame, it doesn't feel good, but it means that you're ready to get a new response. So it's actually great. So step number 12 in my 12 steps is called fail and recommit. I want you to always celebrate your failures, because if you didn't feel the failure, I'm not saying to feel it and dwell on it, but if you didn't fail, that just meant you're not changing at all. That just means that you think you're doing everything right, but you're still not getting the response you want. Failure is just an indication that you're being honest and that you're looking. And failure is great because it gives you the opportunity to recommit to not blaming. So we're always saying he's doing something wrong. I was always blaming, directly or indirectly, or complaining. So just get a look at that and just go, oh, okay. Well, let me think, what can I do? Gratitude, appraisal, curiosity, trust, and just pick one of the good behaviors and just bust yourself when you do the bad behavior. Be honest, at least with yourself. So honestly, are we not always telling him that he's doing something wrong, or thinking about what he should or shouldn't do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're great. Celebrate our failures.
What's appraisal?
It's like saying that there's like being a coach, saying something good.
Oh,
So
okay.
So like think of it like you're the soccer coach and he's the little league 5-year-old. What would the soccer coach do? Like,
Good job.
yeah, exactly. Because you do it because not to treat him like a child, but because he's used to us telling him that he's doing something wrong. So we need to say a lot of times that he's doing something right, because all we've ever told ourselves and him is that he's doing something wrong. We didn't mean to, but we're different. Like, I don't like being hit, but my boys, they just do that. That's their way of being, right? So because we've always said he's doing something wrong, we get to really say he's doing something right if you want him to dare to open up and speak more words, so we can put more words into his head if we want.
Yeah.
That. You get to just wait it out. Wait for him to come and talk to you. Be patient. Or wait. You
Is
can't.
this like other habits that, you know, they say take what, usually a month or something to keep doing it before you even notice?
I don't know. It took me years. No, I'm
Ah.
not. I'm just saying that I stood there and waited, and he still doesn't say what's on his mind. But what I did notice that really shifted fast was when I didn't try to pull him out, when he was in his shell, and I just sat next to him and I patted him on his back, and I really was not on an agenda to get him out of his shell. He came out quickly. So I noticed that even when I thought I was doing the right thing, I was still telling him he was doing something wrong because I wanted him out of his shell so fast, and he wasn't ready. And I was trying to pull him out of his shell. That way I was telling him he's doing something wrong. Come out of your shell.
Yeah.
The reason that I wanted him to come out of his shell, I didn't know it at the time. It was because I wanted to fix my own wrongs. I had said something stupid that made him shut down. And my inner fear was like, I ruined everything again. I feel like a failure in love. And then I went to fix it, get him out of his shell. And that was how I knew that I was still telling him he was doing something wrong, even in the martyrdom story. It's me coming into you, trying to make up. But it wasn't. I was just trying to fix my own wrongs because deep down, I hated myself for ruining everything again. I didn't notice that, but that was what was going on. That was what triggered me to fix it. So notice your need to fix things. If you have a need to fix something, or if you don't like where you were at, like you were telling me, Rebecca,
Mhm.
have that story, that means that you're blaming yourself for something deep down. You think there's something you need to fix. Our husband's perspective is perfect sometimes because he's like, everything's good. And then they get a divorce. Okay, maybe she wasn't happy, but it's still a good approach to be like, okay with where you're at, right?
Yeah.
More like your husband, and then automatically he should be more like you statistically. And if he's not, that's okay too. But the chances of him doing what you want him to do are higher when you're not thinking about it. So when you're thinking about what your husband should or shouldn't do, chances are he's not thinking about it because you're busy thinking about it. He's going to be defending himself or thinking about something else. So just by mere statistics, stop thinking about it. Maybe he'll start thinking about it.
Mm.
Yeah. So never ever think about what your husband should or shouldn't do. It's a waste of time and it's just annoying and frustrating. Think about what you can do right now without blaming, complaining, directly or indirectly, or hosting a huge pity party. So if you want to talk to your husband, ask yourself this: do I have any blame inside of myself? Any blame? And if the answer is yes, it just means you're honest. Go for a walk, kiss him, eat something, don't talk. Because remember, his entire life, he's been told by women he's doing something wrong again. Imagine how that feels. He's much more sensitive than you think about. He's just used to so much critique that he just seems like he's not taking it in, but it's a self-defense mechanism. Like men have it really hard. I know we do too, and we feel like, oh, it's impossible, and like stuff everywhere. And I get that it's hard. I really get it. But if you're staying in that story, you're just not going to get what you want. It's a way better story to think about how our men feel, even though it makes us feel bad that we did that. But don't feel guilty about it. Just know you're going in the right path, the right direction. And it does feel a little, oh, did I do that? But that's the right place to be.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Karina, you came in late. Do you have anything I can help you with? Any questions? Oh, Karina, it's you. Perfect. Thank you for Yes, you had that beautiful, I tried to replicate it, but I couldn't. Please say what you wrote to me.
Yeah, I thought it was 6 o'clock, so I thought I was early.
Ah, okay. But you were the one that wrote, so should he just do everything he wants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you, I forgot the phrasing, but I love what you wrote. Please, can you say it again?
Oh, if we can't say what we want and what we, well, I have to think about it either. I have a feeling if we can't express what we are, what bother us, then he can do everything he wants, and destroy, neglect our boundaries. Yeah,
Okay.
and that is not what I want in a relationship.
I get that completely. So thank you. Yeah, we are in the daylight thing. So for 1 week, there is only 8 hours between Europe and California. So I get that. It's just that 1 week. Sorry about that, Karina. So I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody else feels that or had that conversation. So he can just do anything he wants. We're just supposed to be okay with it. Just love. Yeah.
That's what I think when we
I'd
have
love to hear in the chat if anyone else feels that way, just to get it. Cool. So you didn't hear what I talked to Rebecca about. So it's about what you want and what you don't want. So when you're managed by fear and insecurity, or just thinking about what you don't want, I don't want that in a relationship, then we actually steer towards that. So notice your conversation in your head. Are you talking about what you want or what you don't want? So instead of talking about what you don't want in a relationship, look at what you do want, just as a general rule of thumb. So I'll say this to you. You don't have one right now. I don't have one either, but it's the same message. Your husband loves you. The only things that's different is that you get more insecure. So your husband never ever means you any wrong. He never ever steps over your boundaries. You may have that experience, but the way to love is the opposite of what your brain is telling you. So the way to love is always different. And it does, your husband is just someone that God put in front of you for a learning experience to get in touch with yourself and to heal stuff. But now with your insight, I realize, yeah, he doesn't tell me I'm wrong and can't. Yeah, exactly. So Karina, I wanted you to see the conversation I had with Rebecca, because she was also in that conversation. So it's about shifting, staying on our own turf. Ask not what your husband can do for you, but what you can do for your husband. And I get that that can be triggering, but so my best way of explaining it is that I was half angel, half asshole, my husband told me. And I don't know what you're like, but no matter what we're like, it's always the right way to go, is to lead with love. So whether or not we should be with our husbands or not, that's the wrong question. Just ask yourself, what can I do right now in this very instant moment and second? So be in the present moment. Ask yourself, what can I do right now? What conversation can I have right now in my head that will get me to feel love and connection? What can I do right now to feel more love and connection? Because then you'll let more love in your life. Whenever anything is in the future, it's either based on fear or love. So when you married and met and you were in love, nothing has actually changed except for fear, insecurities, looking for proof. But when you look for proof, it disappears. So proof that he loves you is something you can experience and let in. So it's all about if we're insecure or we're led by love and trust. So proof, when we need it, is because we're insecure, and we'll be looking like this. Did he move the beer bottles from the table? Did he do that? No. So he still doesn't love me. Doesn't love me. Can't live together. And then out here can be all the proof in the world that he loves you. Like all the love and wealth and everything is right outside our very narrow scope of finding the proof the way we want to see the proof. Did he take out the trash? Did he do what I told him to? Is he respecting my boundaries? No, he stepped over it. Can't be together with him. And that is because the female brain experienced 8 times more stress, or 8 times more blood flow to the hippocampus part of the brain in moderate stress. I got that from John Gray. So women are more stressed than men. So in normal moderate stress, we have much more blood flow to the hippocampus brain, where emotions and feelings are stored, emotions and memories are stored. So we're excused for bad behavior. We're more stressed than men, and we envy men for it. deep down, is my experience, because we would love it if we could just sit and relax. So we get really, and then we get really angry that we're not the loving wife that we really are. And then we get even more angry at him for making us into not being able to be the loving wife that we are, but we are loving. But we just have more stress. We have a different brain. We think about stuff to fix all the time. So one way of relaxing is to stop fixing things and know, like, Rebecca, you don't need to fix anything. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your husband. You have each other. You have love. I get that it's triggering and it's frustrating. And if he's a hoarder, oh my God, but you do have love. You have something that many people spend an entire life looking for. And then when we get it, we don't want it because it makes us feel bad, or it's not the way we wanted it to be. But you have it. So love him or leave him. Use it or lose it, like I would say when I was cleaning up the 3 things of everything. Use it or lose it, love it or leave it. It's the same with your husband. So if you want him to take out the trash, or you want to clean your house, take out the trash inside of your head. Remove verbal garbage from your mouth and from your mind. So the best thing I ever did, the best decision I ever made, was to stop saying or thinking anything negative about my husband. Stop that dialogue. Fail and recommit to it. Promise yourself right here, right now, you'll never say or think another negative thing about your husband. And I will promise you, then you become the leader and not the follower of your emotions. If you make that decision to never say or think anything negative about your husband, you're setting yourself free from an emotional prison. This is the beginning of what I call the word flipping exercise. You should all get my mini ebook for $27. It's only 5 pages long. And it helps you flip the words around. So whatever you're annoyed about with your husband, he's so slow. Oh, I can't take a decision. Flip it around. Do yourself the favor. There's a list of words you can put down. It's very, very easy to do. And you have my email address, and I'd love to help you. If you buy the book, you give me feedback and get your money back. And I'd love to coach you around it, because I want you to experience the magic of realizing all the gold that is in the biggest triggers you have with your husband. There's so much gold in it. So being slow, I flipped it around. In the beginning, I just cheated myself. It was like a hack, right? I said, oh, honey, you're so efficient. And I really meant slow. But by changing the words I said in my mouth and I cheated my mind to keep saying you're so efficient. So instead of having a conversation that I married somebody who's so slow, I was like, I swept it around to efficient. And then, somewhere along the line, very fast, actually, my head and heart just followed my mouth. So just never, ever say or think that your husband is, for example, slow, or whatever it is that triggers you. Yes, Sam, are you on my email list? And are you male or female? I'd love to know. I love that there are men on here, because I'd love to have that safe space to.
I'm sorry, I was out. Today is I got your email today, so
Okay,
it was.
so you're on the list. Perfect. I'll send it out. You're on my email list. I'll send you the masterclass. I'll send you the ebook. Thank you so much for wanting it.
Thank you.
And but the reason I'm so excited about, it's called day 3 in my 5-day challenge. It's called day 3, remove verbal garbage. It really works wonders, because we keep, like, what we look at grows. So if you keep staring at that fact that you married a loser, or whatever is bad story you're telling yourself that gives you bad emotions and bad response, it's going to grow. So it's going to look like you married the biggest loser. Why would you tell yourself that? Here is this person, this human being, this beautiful love experience. There's so much to learn from. And for some reason, I just couldn't see the value or take it in. I mean, I always had tremendous love, but I had all the stories that you make up. Look at the words you're telling yourself inside or outside your head. And when you're talking don't call your mom, don't call your girlfriends. Please do not do that. Get into a coaching program. That's why I'm so eager to talk about my 12 steps to lead with love, because it provides a community in which you can share. If you call your mom, she's going to say, oh yeah, he should do better. Oh, you're so right. Yeah, he's so wrong. And you're so right. That's all your mom is going to tell you. That's all your girlfriend's ever going to tell you. And we call them because we're stuck in a bad place and we want relief and understanding. And then we call these people and they just say, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. They're never going to interrupt your story. Rebecca, thank you so much. I'll figure out what to do. Look, I'll wrap it up and I'll send it out. I'm so happy to help, and I'm so happy that you're on, and I'm so happy that you're listening. So yes, what you look at grows, and what you look for, you find. So if you're looking for evidence that he loves you, that's actually what you're not going to find, because it's going to disappear, because you're telling yourself that he doesn't love you and you need proof. But you can discover things. So you can create a new response in your relationship, but creation requires that you, like I said in the beginning when nobody was on and I was talking, is that you're in a cage and it's dark, and you take one foot in front of the other, and it kind of lights up the path as you walk it. Because how can you create something new if you already know the steps? Then you're just going to walk down the same path, the war zone, the path to war, not to love. So the new way to walk to love, where there's more and more love, the more you give, the more you get. It's totally dark and new. You've never seen it before. The only thing is the white shining ass I saw, but you get to walk past that ass and look at it. And it's okay that sometimes we scold our husband or a partner, or sometimes we just have a tendency of being nagging, right? And it's okay. So I want you to talk now. I've talked so long. Please tell me what you like about what I said, or what you didn't understand, or anything concretely I can help you with. You can also just type where in the world you're from, where in the States, so I can see that. Someone's calling in. I think that's interesting. Yes, Sharon.
Suggestions for people who don't tend to nag, but tend to clam up and what is the word?
Mhm.
You know, like don't speak.
Okay, yeah, so that would be the opposite. So you should speak up. Make the habit of just saying everything that's on your mind. Be trusting that you can't be accused of doing anything wrong when you open up. Do the opposite. Stay in the faith. You can say what you think. Florida, thanks. Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
So always do the opposite. So Sharon, you're probably going to attract somebody like me who talks all the time. So be more like the person you attract. So we only get triggered, is my experience, by two things: either what we hate most about ourselves, or what we most wish we had, what we most wish we dared to or were able to, what we most lack, right? So you might get triggered by someone who talks and says everything on their mind, because deep down somewhere, you know, it would be better for you to speak up what was on your mind. So I'd love to hear what you're afraid of. What is it that you think is going to happen when you say everything on your mind? You can answer now if you want. I'm happy to.
Yeah, that is very helpful, because I spoke about my friend before who talks nonstop, and I tend to be talkative other than communicating like my feelings. So I have learned to express myself more, and what had scared me was to lose this friendship, which is like one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my life. And I was afraid I'm going to say something to offend him, or make him angry at me, or make him say, no, we're not on the same page, we can't be friends anymore.
Did you share that with him, Sharon, that you were afraid of that?
No, I haven't. I will think about that.
No, don't think about it. That's the worst thing you can do. Your brain is your worst friend. Just do it. But listen, wouldn't you love it if he was honest with you? Like, it's not love if it can disappear. I promise you that the best thing ever is if somebody opens up and are honest, and you're not accusatory at all. So there's no way that it can scare him away. Open that beautiful heart. If you tell him what you just told me, he's going to go, oh, and he's going to feel so happy. He's going to be sad if he found out you hadn't told him that. He's going to be, you felt like that and you didn't tell me.
Thank you. You're so right on, because the few times that I have opened up, he has like gasped, and he had said, oh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way.
Yeah. Don't cheat him out of seeing the true you. Just be you. And even if for some reason that it didn't work, it's not meant to be. So be you. You're beautiful. You're the opposite of me. I'm beautiful in my own way. You're beautiful in your way. Just be you. Yes, there are two different messages. So Karina, what I said is do the opposite. So the way to love is the opposite of your knee-jerk reaction. So my knee-jerk reaction is to speak and fix and do. When I relax and be more like my husband, now ex-husband, when I act like him, even though it doesn't matter, let's say I never met him, to be more like him is still going to be the way to get out for me to transform all of your lives. Like when I can shut up and listen, I can transform lives and live out my life's mission, right? So whomever you attract into your life, like I always used to say, you're my best investment. And I just finished my book that I'd never been able to read if I hadn't, or write, if I hadn't lived. Like I could tell a story that I lived in the most impossible relationship and there was no way to make it work. And it was so sorry for me. And I could make a really losing story where my ex-husband was completely impossible and it was all boohoo for me. But I could look at the bright side and I can see all the good things I got. And he is a great, tremendous guy. He's the best man ever. And I was so stubborn about that since I made that choice to never say or think anything negative about my husband or ex-husband. It's the best thing you can do. Have you ever heard when somebody nags on their husband or their ex-husband? That's not leadership. That's not good leadership. It happens to everybody, right? But it's just not good leadership. We don't really look up to and respect people who nag about, like, so we attract people that are equal to us, right? Or meant for us. We're on the same level. So if I've attracted a loser, that says more about me than whomever I've in a relationship with. Does that make any sense? AO, always opposite. So I want to leave you with two things. AO, Karina, so I get that you're confused about the two messages. So it's always opposite. And then is ARKFP. ARKFP. Always remember Kung Fu Panda. I don't know if you've seen Kung Fu Panda, the first movie. So the big fat panda, I used to be called Kung Fu Panda because I'm a lot like the panda, right? So that's me. He's overthinking and he's insecure and he's about to give up. And the old turtle comes and tells him these magic words. So the past is history. The future is mystery. Now is a gift. That's why they call it the present. So whatever happened, it's gone, right? So in every single second or in every single minute, there is endless possibilities. Every new second has a million different possibilities to choose from when we're not led by fear. When we don't think the present is going to be like the past and the future is going to be like the present, we have all these possibilities in the new second. So what happened to me is, and can still do, is that I shout at my kids or I shout at my husband, or I do something wrong. And instead of just admitting I did something wrong, I stay in it and I keep doing something wrong because I'm mad at myself. So when I'm pointing my fingers at my husband or ex-husband or kids like this, I'm actually talking to myself and I don't realize it always. I'm like, you should do this, you should that, you're so wrong, you're so wrong. And I'm talking to myself because in the very moment I'm doing this, I'm actually shouting and screaming and I'm the one doing something wrong, but I'm making it about their bad behavior. But it's not, it's about my own bad behavior. Admit and move on. Don't judge yourself for it. Just realize, oh my God, I'm lashing out, I'm shouting, I'm complaining. That's not good behavior. It's not going to get me what I want. I want to get to love and connection. Let's do some of the behaviors we call good behaviors that get me there, like gratitude, patience, trust, all of that. So it's super simple and it's very hard because we have our automatic. Just notice when you're doing bad behavior and be okay with it. Again, it's not a moral judgment. The best thing you can do is admit that you're doing bad behavior. It's brilliant. And then implement. That's what I do in my 12-step program. We implement one good habit at a time. So whatever bad behavior we do, it's okay. Don't dwell on it. Just look at it, acknowledge it. Fine. You're going to keep doing your bad behaviors. They're never going to disappear out of the blue, but you can implement new behavior so you get new kind of knee-jerk reactions. So the first and best, that's why I want you to buy that mini ebook. And I'm going to send it to you in the email. The best new habit I made was to never ever say or think anything negative about my husband. I start many of my coaching classes thanking him. I could have told the story like all my friends and family would have said or could have said, even though he is a great guy, that, oh, it was impossible. Oh, how could you live like that? Like that? How could you? and how he should do this, that, and the other. I don't want to go into that conversation because it's not going to help me. So that's a great habit. That's a really good habit. So the 12 steps, when we teach them, when we coach them, is start with honesty, admit and move on. So if we're coaching for 3 months, we have 1 week for each step. If it's a year program, we have a whole month for each step. So when you have a meltdown, something happens, it does, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're the whole family. You practice honesty. You practice admit and move on. When you've practiced that for a week or for a month, then you get really good at that step number 1. And then step number 2 is accept and surrender. So know what, your brain can only do one thing at a time. So next time there's an argument, there's a meltdown, then you've practiced step 1, you start practicing step 2. Okay, what was it Coach Samantha said? Okay, accept and surrender, stop trying to fix things. Then your brain goes to practice, and practice means to fail and recommit to stop trying to fix things, which is step number 2. So accept and surrender is another great habit. And then we just take one step at a time. And then we try it and we get to step number 12 many times. So first step is honesty, admit and move on, also called acknowledgement. And the 12th step is called number 12 is called fail and recommit. So these two always there. And then in between, we can practice different ones. So I had 2 clients. No, one was a client and one wasn't. The one that wasn't a client got the same homework to stop blaming. And after 24 hours, within 2 hours, she said to her husband, fuck you, I hate you, it's all your fault, right? So she got to step number 12, fail or recommit, really fast. And then you go back to honesty and you take the steps. And then all of a sudden you're able to run up all these steps of good behaviors and 2 bad behaviors not to do because you've implemented it as a habit, right? So I want to tell you about Sophie, the other one, that she had all the reason in the world to complain. So there was stuff hanging down the ceiling. The kitchen counter was falling apart. There was piles of his bike in the living room. She couldn't get someone to fix the stuff. He wanted to fix it. He'd get mad if she got someone to fix it, right? Imagine that. And he didn't fix it for I don't know how long. And the whole bike piled up, they're picked apart, chain and stuff, oily parts, and they had kids together, and he didn't have a phone and he didn't have a job. He didn't apply for benefits, no phone. She was going crazy. I talked to her for 2 times an hour where she talked, and I could really understand. It's very hard to tell a woman to stop blaming or complaining when she's got a list that long. And she was in the worst place in her marriage, but she enrolled in the program. And my first homework to her was stop blaming. I don't know if you've seen the text. I've sent them out many times because it was so amazing getting a text message from her because she stopped blaming for literally maybe just 4 hours because work and you come home and you sleep. He said, I love you. And she wrote it to me in text. She couldn't remember when he said it the last time. And he started looking for a job. And he did all these things that he said he wasn't able to before because he felt all that blaming and all that complaining. So just from biting her tongue, not blaming for maybe only 4 hours, I call it 24 hours. She got her loving husband back. They had a date night. He said he loved her, and it was just, wow, amazing. But it takes something to interrupt a story, right? Just trust that the solution and the way to love is the opposite of what you see and what your brain is telling you. Your brain is your enemy. Your heart is your friend. Forget your brain. Get drunk if you have to, unless you have a problem with that. It's not going to get you anywhere you want. Be pragmatic about it. You want to get to love and connection. I'll send a copy of the 12 steps. Look at them. Don't do step 8, blaming, and don't host a pity party. Those are the only things to remember not to do. And then there's so many things you can do. It's just we're wired for some reason to do bad habits and bad behaviors, but it comes down to the stories. That's the secret. That's the understanding the secret to communication is how you communicate with yourself. It has nothing to do with how you communicate with him. What you communicate to yourself is what's going to get you the result and the response. I feel like I've been talking way too much. Which is more. When am I going to learn silence? Let me know what landed in the chat, or just unmute and say something if you want.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was in a 40-year marriage, and he passed, and now I'm in a new marriage. It's been 9 years since my husband passed, and in a brand new marriage, and not wanting to make the same mistakes, but yet he is the opposite of what my 40-year husband was. So that just means, I guess, I was in a different place. I needed something different in this stage of my life.
It's all about how we look at it. Just see that trust, there's a reason he's in front of you. Lead yourself with love and see where you end up.
Okay.
Just
And don't analyze it, just go
yeah,
with it.
exactly. Arfkapoo, 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 arfkapoo. The arfkapoo is when you're overthinking.
Yes.
Unless you're thinking of how much you love him, you don't do it, because then you're overthinking and you're getting disconnected.
Okay.
And I love Karina. I love that you have resistance to it. It's great that you get triggered. It's so good and beautiful. Everything is good. So Rebecca, there is something for you to learn. And just see where it takes you. I never ever thought that I would end up leaving my husband. And it was never a possibility, but I did the work and I did the steps. Just trust that if you lead yourself with love right here, right now, you're going to get to where you need to go, but be where you are and take one foot in front of the other. You're going to be so much happier when your natural response is, wait a minute, what can I do right now without blaming, complaining, blaming a huge pity party? You're gonna feel so liberated. You're gonna free up so much time, and you have a husband. You have somebody you can make love with right now and feel connected and feel that bliss that it is when you look into your lover's eyes. That is something you have disposable at any point in time to go and create and make love.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It's all about choice. So we can be nagging, miserable. It's a choice, or we can go make love. It's just a habit. We have that choice. Don't ever forget you have a choice, especially as women. Men have it too, but I feel like they have it a little harder because we can, close them down. And they could get really hurt. So we can make love or we can make war. It's a choice. What I found is that if we're not honest, we don't get to responsibility and then we don't get to choice. So those are the 3 quick steps: honesty, responsibility, and then you feel like you have a choice. I felt stuck and powerless, like I had no choice. I felt like I had no control over the situation. There was nothing I could do. I felt backed up in a corner. I felt like literally stuck. So when I did this work, I started being honest with myself. Okay, actually, I feel vengeance. I feel like you hurt me and I hate you. I want to get you back. I remember admitting that and switching that around. That lasted for the first 7 years. That takes a little honesty to admit that you feel like you hurt me and I hate you. I want to get back at you. But that was where I was at. And then I looked at all the long text messages I was writing. I said, whoa, that's a long message. What am I really saying here? All I'm saying is that what I did was okay and what you did was wrong. So practice honesty about the stories inside of your head. When you start practicing honesty, then you can move on to responsibility, which is asking yourself a better question. Ask, gee, I wonder how he feels when he's stuck like a deer in the headlight. It's not because he's blind. It's because he's scared, because I scare him. Like, ask that, and then you're connected to your husband. When you ask, gee, I wonder how he feels, without thinking you know what it's like to be him, don't judge him or assess him, just ask, because even the question will bring you to connection. The right questions he's gonna feel it. You're gonna mentally be connected to him when you ask out of curiosity and have an open mind to know that all your stories are wrong and are lies unless you're telling good stories. So responsibility is like, okay, what I get back is a result of what I send out. So first honesty, then responsibility. Play around like you're the president or the king or the queen. You're a big leader. Everybody looks up to you and everybody takes your cue. So if he shuts down, it's just feedback. Feedback is neutral. It's just feedback. It didn't work. Okay, let's try something else. There's no reason to keep talking if talking doesn't work. Maybe I should try to shut up. Okay. Your husbands, if love silence, and all the women I talk to love to talk about their emotions and talk more, and all the men would love silence. Sometimes we swap roles, right? So Honesty, responsibility, tell a better story and take ownership and be responsible. I created this, I can uncreate it. I can create something new. You're the creator in your life, right? Then, Karina, I love that you get triggered by it, and I feel with you. I feel your heart. I do really. And then there's choice. You won't feel like you have a choice. You will feel stuck unless you start with honesty and responsibility. So responsibility is not to go down hard on yourself. It's just to play around with the thought that everything is a response to what you're sending out. Just play around with it. It's just a habit of how we respond and look at things. So I used to make huge pity parties while doing the dishes. I would cry. Imagine that. And then I heard a lady on YouTube said, stop hosting your own pity party. And I stood there and I was washing up and all the stories were firing up in my head. I cannot live in this mess. Blah, blah, blah. And then I remember what the lady said and I started laughing and I never, ever cried doing the dishes again. I just laughed, and it's the same dishes. It was the same situation. It's how we interpret it, right? I had all the reason in the world also to interpret it like it was an impossible situation. I still think it was an impossible situation, but if my husband hadn't been exactly the way he is, I would never learned all of this and I wouldn't be sitting in front of you teaching it. So just trust that you're at the right place. Everything happens for a reason and there's gold in every trigger. Karina, can I help you with your trigger and the resistance? I love that you have resistance because it means that there's something really, really, really valuable for you in this gold. Like the same in a relationship, when you feel the most triggered, there is a pot of gold. Yeah, and you're unmuted, by the way, Karina. Or we can just end it here. It's completely up to you guys. Let me know in the chat what you want. Okay, then I'll end with this. So I am a loving wife. I am a loving mother. I may act differently, but the little soul that yearned to experience itself, he said, what is darkness? He called upon himself darkness, and he's asked, what is darkness? It is everything that you are not. We're all souls. We have an eternal light that when we are just light, we just disappear in the big sun. Okay, Karina. So it's about experiencing ourselves. So I had to trust that I was a loving mother in spite of acting wrong. I physically hurt my own kids. Now that is a very difficult thing to forgive yourself as a mother, having harmed your own kids, having hit them. It's very, very, very hard to forgive yourself for that. But if I didn't forgive myself and I kept blaming myself, it would be blame spillover and I would never be the loving mother that I am. So I have that choice. So even though the present moment doesn't see it as proof, I know I'm a loving mother. I know that's my soul's essence, and everything I do that's opposite of that, that is just to experience who I truly am. So I've gotten rid of all these bad habits by implementing new ones, but deep down, I still have the trigger, the addictive nature, the aggressions, all the things, but I get to live with it and integrate it and use it for something good. And there is something good in everything. So it's been a long time since I've been physical with my kids, and I'm very, very happy about that. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because it's a matter of trust and choice. I had to forgive myself. If I still, deep down, we blame ourselves. That's why we blame others. Or that's why something bad comes out of us. It's all about our relationship with love. It's about our relationship with ourselves. So our husbands and our kids and our wives, it just reflects our own relationship with ourselves. So if you blame yourself, you're going to blame others. If you're hurting others or hitting others, you're hitting yourself, you're hurting yourself. So hurting your own kid is the ultimate self-destruction. And I know that because my mom did it. Obviously, that's how I learned it, right? And she felt so bad and so guilty her entire life. That is why I am blatantly honest, always about it. I did my Passionate About Parenting show. I always come clean. It's more important for me to be a loving wife and a loving mother than it is what people will think of me. And it's more important for me to help mothers and to help wives who are stuck in anger, who are stuck, doing the opposite of who they truly are. So don't blame yourself. Forgive yourself, no matter what you've done. Like Oliver, my oldest, he says the most amazing things. And he learned that from all the wrongdoings and all the things we've been through. We're here now. He's learned so much. I have to just trust. I can't change the past. ARKFP. So imagine that, imagine having done that. So if I can do it, if I can manage my emotions, if I can forgive myself, if I can learn to lead with love, so can you. And it's amazing when you do. So I teach it 12 steps to lead with love that start with honesty, and 12 number steps fail and recommit. It's a 3-month program. It's open now. If you want to have a conversation about it, I'm very open to talking to you. I'd also love to do a what do you want session with you. And if I feel it's the right match, I'll give you an offer to join the program. It's mentioned at the end of my masterclass. You get to really see the whole curriculum of what we go through in those 12 steps to lead with love and how it's done. So I will send you an email with the replay for the masterclass, with the webinar style, and watch it till the end if you're interested in learning about the 12 steps to lead with love program that I offer. And apart from that, there's lots of resources. I'll also send you a link to the ebook. I want you to do that exercise. Can you address abuse? Yes, I can. Do you mean if your husband is abusive?
Yes.
But what do you mean abusive?
If there's physical violence or threats, verbal.
So what is it exactly that you're asking? If somebody,
If a person, and it's no longer my situation.
okay.
That's why I said my
Yeah.
current husband, my 40-year relationship, there was a lot of physical, verbal, emotional, and I think which changes who you are. How would this have fit in? I'm wondering, in that situation, maybe there would have been less abuse had I not been afraid.
You can't, just like you can't, stay on your own turf. How he acts and behaves is on his turf, right?
Oh, good.
Yes. So I mean, I was the aggressive one, but I was physically not as big, but I did actually choose to leave because once my husband did get angry, I was afraid. It sounds a little exaggerated, but when you lose control, like if I lose control, I can't kill him, right? Because I'm so tiny, but he could, he's big, right? So that was one of the reasons I decided to move out, because not that he was violent and abusive, but I could see where it could go, because he got memory loss. When he finally lost it, the few times he did, he didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So I chose to move out because it was unsafe for me and the kids, and I had my fair share in it. I was the aggressor, but I'm female, so it's not like a big threat as such.
Yes.
So I couldn't manage my emotions, but if a big guy can't manage his emotion, he could end up killing us if it's not on purpose, but that's just the facts, right? So this not we shouldn't be insecure about it, but at some point it's take it into consideration and be responsible. So I did the responsible thing. I moved out because we were fighting so much that it hurt our children, not physically, but it hurt them to see it, right? So in my view, it was nobody's fault, but it was the only right thing to do. So that's also leading yourself with love.
Okay.
Don't think that if somebody hits you, that's on them, but it's also a cue to you. Something we can't close our eyes to. And if I hit somebody like my kids, it's also a cue to me. All we can do is look at it and decide what to do. And don't try to push it under the rug. Just be completely honest, but don't assessment will always lead to judgment, will always lead to prejudice, but experience. If you experience something, that's what's happening. And then it's creating a new experience. So, yep, my conclusion was I love you and I still love him, but I love myself more. But I don't want to talk about it because I don't want people in relationships to say, oh, then I shouldn't be with him, because don't conclude that. Just lead yourself with love and see where it takes you.
Nice.
Yeah.
No. Thank you.
You're welcome. Always put his needs first. Karina, it depends on what you want. Put your own needs first. If you want love and connection, take the road that leads you to love and connection. And try to do the opposite. If you want to create a new experience, do the opposite of what you've always done. Create something new. So for me, magic happens when I learn to shut up, for example. or be more selfish, care more about others, magic happens. So when I love somebody, all I care about is doing something great for them because it makes me feel good. So for me, the definition of love is the more I give, the more I get. The more I give, the more I get. It's a gift for me to be able to give something to the people, to the person that I love, the human being that I'm in love with, in a love relationship. If you have the tendency to forget about yourself and overgive, don't do that. Like, a responsibility is 100%. Don't take 200% responsibility. That's martyrdom and get you on the wrong path. So being responsible is to be responsible to ourselves first, but also be honest about our stories and our own bad behavior. Don't think about, like, you're not even with a guy and you're already in the story that you're putting his needs first. So just look at that. Look at what's going on inside of you. Why are you so triggered about this? It's interesting. Just be curious about yourself, but no judgment.
No, it was with my husband that I had that experience. You said, think about what he is feeling, and that was just what I did all the time in my marriage. And I'm done with that because he laid back and he did nothing, and I had the responsibility of the whole relationship on my neck. And that was so tiring that I don't want to do that anymore.
Cool.
I want that my needs are also important, so I can think what all the time what he is feeling and thinking, but that was just what I did all the time, and that broke me down.
So it sounds like you're a lot like my ex-husband, and he never said his needs, and I was all me. So be more you. Talk about your needs. Definitely talk about your needs.
Yeah, I will do that in the next relationship. Absolutely.
My point is we don't create a connection. I don't know if you were really curious to find out what his needs were, or if it was just a way to forget about yourself. It didn't sound very constructive. So I just find that I'm connected to people, could be somebody at a dinner party. If I'm forgetting about myself and I don't think I know the answer, that's just how I create a real authentic connection. For example, with you right now, I'm really curious. And then it was something completely different. I just saw that you were triggered, right? If I'd gone into conclusion, I would have lost the connection and never figured out what was going on inside of you.
Yeah.
So I know that you've made that decision. Don't put your knee. Now I understand why this was triggering for you. And all I can say, sounds like you're like my husband. So do the opposite.
Yeah, I will do that.
You'll get great love. And this, yeah, it can be counterintuitive, but all I can say is, Ayo, do the opposite. Do the opposite. And just know that if you're in that relationship, it's taking, how did I get myself into this? Why did I end up here? Why did I choose this? I'm going to choose something else. But while we're in it, get as much out of it as we can by being the best we can be. And responsibility is also to not do something that you're going to end up regretting later and wish you've done it differently. So everything we've done is already done.
Yeah, I'm convinced about that. It was, I have to learn it, and it's not a waste of time, or I didn't see it that way. That's not the case.
I'm glad to hear it. So thank you. It was so interesting having your point of view to challenge what I say. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for being on the call. And thank you, everybody, for making this a great session. I'm really, really happy that you were all here listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. So encouraging, so insightful.
Oh,
beautiful.
Glad to hear it. So happy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.